between 13 and 14 billion a biennium, so in the 2-year budget in K through 12 education, all funds, so state funds, federal funds. But off the top of my head, I can't tell you how much of that is federal money.
Okay, you know there's strings attached with federal money?
There's always strings
There
attached
always
with
is.
federal money.
Okay, well, you know back, I don't know if you probably are aware, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, that's how the federal government took control of our educational system. And they codified it in the Every Student Succeeds Act.
Which has been
Bill
changed
Gates.
several times over the years, No Child Left Behind.
Yeah, it's all the same, outcome-based education.
Federal money, strings attached.
Yep. You know, the thing we need to do is let them have their money. Research the 10th Amendment. We don't need their money. We need to get local control back. That's very important because you're seeing critical race theory being taught in schools. All this, you know, LGBT thrown at the younger kids in grade school. And you can even look that up.
I like your focus on the 10th Amendment. I certainly agree with that. I think the only problem with your argument that we don't need their money, I think there's some truth to that if they weren't taking it all.
Yep.
If we weren't paying all those taxes to the federal government, it would be one thing to say, you know, we don't want your money. I mean, so if we could stop the taking, then maybe we wouldn't have to try to get it back.
That's our money. That's our
right.
money. It's
So
not.
that's the
It's not
problem.
the federal government. It's
If
the
we
money.
just say as a state, we don't want it, well then they're gonna give it to Tennessee, and we paid for it and all that. So-
We have to live within our means then.
Yeah.
We have to make cuts then. I mean, that's no question about that. But I don't want the federal government telling my grandkids, my daughter's out of school now. I don't want them telling my kids what they can be taught, you know, in public schools.
Okay. I can stay a little bit later, but I just gotta make sure I've got 10 or 15 minutes to get to Neosho by 11, so.
Hi, Mark.
Yep.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
You know, I'm always about childcare because
Yep.
that's my life.
Yep.
Childcare Strong is coming through the governor's
Yep.
budget, and very much would like the joint finance to support that. In full funding, even with the full funding, it still is nowhere near enough to support what childcare needs. And I think during COVID, when the public schools closed down and everything else closed down, it was obvious how important the childcare was to keep families working and to take care of the school-age kids and to provide them with virtual platforms and on and on and on. Everything the public school insisted we do, we did, and now we need the funding. We need funding, and Childcare Strong funds all children, not just low-income children. It funds all children. And I think that's the important aspect of that program over and above others. And yes, there's a lot of federal money that came into childcare, but during 2020, all it did was keep us alive because many, many of us would have closed. The estimate is about 20% of programs would have closed without the CARES funding. And I know programs, myself included, who would have really been in a world of hurt if we wouldn't have gotten CARES funding. And I know it's still coming. There's 2 rounds slated for spring and summer still coming in. But what we need is a consistent care, a consistent funding to all child care children. And that's what Child Care Counts is. And that's what's been missing. And as far as with what this lady said about our public schools, I hope we always have school choice, because I think that is the equalizer with the public schools. And when I hear public schools complain about it, I always think, you know, it's a business world, and if you provide your customers what they want, they won't leave your school.
All right, thanks, Joan. And I think I had a good chat with DCF yesterday on some of your stuff, in your budget. So I'll probably either try to call you or maybe have staff follow up next week on some of that.
Sounds good.
Too much time
Anytime.
today. Yeah.
The other thing is, you know, 4K full day will kill us in childcare,
Yeah.
so that we need to stop.
That was one of the things I talked to them about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one other question, just
Yep.
a personal one. The mask mandate ends April 5th.
Something like that. From.
Do you hear or see anything where it's going to be extended?
I can't imagine the governor would not extend it. I mean, I'm sure he will. But
Do you think you will?
I can't
Even
imagine they
with
won't.
positive, even with positive.
The problem is if you see what DHS is still saying yesterday, they were on their, every other day update still claiming that Wisconsin's still way too high a rates and we're still in a very danger zone. We're just not in as bad a place as we were in November and December, but it's still terrible, and that was her whole press conference yesterday.
Well,
So
and
I think
not
they're
only that-
setting the stage for that.
Yeah, how many
But
people have COVID shots already, have
Well,
the vaccines?
Wisconsin, I think, is only about 12% that has both. But it's getting better, and so I think in a couple more months, it'll get a lot better.
Because we have more accessibility to it now.
Yeah, and it's getting, I mean, but fewer people are wearing masks. This is the longest I've worn a mask right now, the half hour I've been in here and all week. I mean, in my Capitol office, no one's wearing a mask. It's not, even if you stop at stores now, if you're outside of Beaver Dam in Dodge County, I've noticed the mask wearing is maybe 50% at best. Beaver Dam is still a little higher. In these things, I just, pretty much anywhere you go, you just respect the wishes of where you're at. All these municipal buildings I'm holding these at, they say wear a mask, so we wear them, and people do what they want.
Because most of the people up at the Capitol had their shots already?
I'm not aware of, I mean, we haven't gotten them unless we were 65 or older, so I mean, I have a couple of colleagues that are in that age group that I've known, so 2 or 3 that I know, but none of our staff or anything. Now, though, that, 70% of the state is eligible as of this past Monday, because with using BMI, most of us are plenty big enough to be considered overweight and get them. So I think more will start to get them, and I also think, Biden said by May 1st, everyone should be eligible. I think it'll be even sooner than that, because they're starting to have a hard time filling all the spots. Late last week, they were having a hard time filling all the spots at Public Health in Juneau. Until Monday when they opened it up more. They were running out of people that wanted it. So
I know I had heard that there was a factory in town here that everybody there was highly recommended to get a shot. And they actually came to the factory to do that.
Yeah, and I know some of the food service industries were doing that and stuff because they were considered essential. And
Yeah.
So, yep. So, do you have something?
Well, my husband's older than I am, and we signed him up for the Dodge County Registry right away. He has never received a phone call for it.
Yeah.
He has gotten
Really?
a shot elsewhere, but he has never received a phone call.
Oh, I found out what that was. I ran into the same thing with my dad. So I signed him up several places trying to get him in somewhere on his wait list. One of them was his local pharmacy. And then I got him into a Walgreens, which was not his local pharmacy, like a month ago. And I kept asking him, did Hometown ever call you? Like, why are they not calling you? You were on their wait list. So I talked to the owner at Hometown, and the state registry updates them. So they look at that periodically and take people off their list. So if they saw he got it somewhere else, they cross them off the list.
Okay.
Because the registry updates.
And I will say the same thing. Dodge County did call me.
Yeah.
And they asked if I had gotten my shot because I had registered with them because I was a Meals on Wheels driver.
Yeah.
And they says, fine, we'll put you on the list. But then I called my hospital because they gave me a number. They said, you're old. You'll make it. 77, you're old. And they took me right in. They gave me 3 choices to go to, 3 places, Ripon, Pond, Fond du Lac. I went to, and I went to a Pond, bang, it was done and over. And then before I could call back and tell Dodge County, for whatever reason, they called me and they says, well, we can put you on, you'll be set up next week to go for your shot. And then I told them, well, gee, I got mine already, so take me off. And they did it. They did return the call to me to
It just
check.
depends on where you fall. She told me at the pharmacy about once a week they check that registry and cross people off, and so if they call you in between there, or if they cross you off, that's
I think they
catch you one way or
I think
the
the
other.
state has gotten that thing going pretty good now, that they're
It's going a lot better than it
Open
started
it up
off.
to
Yeah.
more people sooner,
Right.
because
covering it.
people like me who want one can't get one yet.
I would contact Dodge County Public Health because last week they were scheduling a lot of people.
Because I'm not eligible.
You should.
Well, still.
You should be eligible now.
What
There's a
you
lot of
can
hospitals.
The only way I can be eligible if I say I have whatever his BMI thing.
Oh, yeah,
That's the only way I can say I'm eligible right now.
yeah.
You can also
It
be put
doesn't
under.
take much I'd look into it, it doesn't take much to be 25 BMI.
So,
You don't have to be very overweight to meet
I
it.
don't know.
It's a weird standard.
And you can also be, they have a list of if they have extra shots, people
Right,
they'll
yeah.
call. The other thing I wanted to say about the mask mandate is, I know I've told you that DCF has now made it their vigilant thing to just hammer on every child care center about wearing a mask, wear a mask. The most important thing right now in DCF, because it's termed a safety hazard for children if we don't, regardless of the fact that 12 months later, Willows has never had an outbreak of COVID. I'm hoping that when the governor eliminates the mask mandate, DCF will follow suit immediately. If not, I will be calling you.
Yeah, they won't have anything to enforce that with once the governor's order is gone, so they'll have to stop.
Doesn't seem to bother licensing, that they have nothing to enforce it with, in my opinion.
Well, then we'll have solid footing to make a complaint.
Thank you.
Sometimes though, we have to work together, even when we don't like the idea.
I am all for
We
mask
can
mandates.
go back and look in history, if we go back in time, and we know what 1918 was, they didn't work together.
But
They
these
knew, the
folks,
doctors knew then already that, why, this is something, you know,
I'm not
different.
arguing with the mask mandate, I'm
They should have
arguing
done it.
with the fact that at childcare, when I'm holding a child, the Department of Health has told me a mask will not protect me from that child's germs. And we hold children, we feed children, we comfort children. There is no social distancing with children. But yet it's become the biggest DCF licensing violation across the state is if I don't have a mask on. I will wear a mask if I go to Menards or to Walmart or whatever, and I forgot my mask here today, I apologize. I'm not arguing with that. I'm arguing with the point that now it's the biggest issue in childcare is whether or not I have a mask on. And we have been open since they closed everything else March 13th. We have been open for over a year and not had any outbreaks of COVID in our building. So that's the history, that's our track record. Personally, at Willows, I'm not talking about outside. I go to church, I wear my mask, on and on and on, because then I'm with people I don't know. Willows has a very closed bubble. Our parents respect that we are trying to keep COVID down, plus we sanitize and wash hands constantly.
Mhm.
okay,
So
there's
it's
a
a
couple
cycle.
minutes left. Does anyone else have anything else that they want to bring up? Do you have anything in the back there, Andrew?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, I will explain just, we're working on, here for Friends of Dodge County Parks, I'm on that now,
Yep.
for the Gold Star Trail. Just to let you know, we are working on it. The trail that next part we're building is gonna be from Horicon to Highway 26. And the
Okay.
county's got some land there. Anyway, issue with the stewardship grant, 2 weeks ago, we received a message from the state to go ahead and apply for the stewardship grant. And when the county did, they said then it's not funded. So I don't know what that means. I just want to make sure that the stewardship grant, how the areas all compete, it's like we
Yeah.
compete against other municipalities, that's how this works.
Yeah.
And
So they were
anyway-
applying for a local grant.
Yes,
That was
and they said then they're not, the state told us to go ahead and apply for them, but then we went to go apply, they said they're not funded. So I don't
Why
know.
they say they're not funded. The stewardship program was funded for both years of this budget, so I don't know if that's their way of telling you they've already spent it.
That could be. So is it in the budget though? They are funded though, the grants?
In the current budget that we're in right now, it was funded for both years.
You want me to give you specifics on it, or?
Yeah, maybe it would be good if you could call the office and
Okay.
give them whatever information you have so they could look into it.
Who do I talk to?
Ask to talk to RJ in my office.
RJ? Okay.
Yeah, he handles all my DNR stuff.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, and I saw they opened the building, the rest area for the trail, but they didn't want any public. Remember, you and Scott and I, remember we went out there and had that, Scott had 500,000 put in the budget to
Yes.
build that, it's built,
Yep.
But they won't let anyone they won't let anyone know about it.
so it's done though.
I think it's done.
Is it? I was
Yeah.
wondering, I haven't been up there. in a
Yeah,
while.
either have I, so I saw the construction, I saw when it was all framed in, but it's done, so that part of the trail is done.
I
It's
think
kinda
the last
cool.
time I was up there was in the fall when they had like the stuff piled up to start it.
They don't like it to be associated with the Gold Star Trail or my son. They don't like that, and it kind of is offensive to me, quite frankly, because if my son wasn't killed, that building wouldn't be there. I mean,
Yeah.
Scott was out there and says, what are we gonna do? I said, we'll build this over here, and they don't even, that's okay. They just, whatever, someday, when
Well,
the
I'm
trail's
glad it's
open all the
done.
way.
It's good for the city and good for the,
So, and the
marsh
Horicon has a
area.
plan, and I maybe talked to you offline. It's not near as important as these other topics. It's different, but it's within your district, and we are going ahead to build the trail. We're gonna try to get it to Beaver Dam, and we're gonna try to compete against other communities to get the money. That's what we're trying to do, but it's nothing like these other issues here.
Where specifically is that building?
It's That building is on top of Palmatory.
It's in Palmatory, you look at.
Right on top, you know where the old, like the old trailer was?
Yeah, no, I just,
Yeah, yeah.
we
Scott-
walked past her.
Yeah, Scott came out here, was it about 6, 7 years ago after our son was killed and said, well, what can we do here? And they put 500,000 in the budget for that building to be built, and then it
Yep.
all has to be hush hush quiet because of COVID or whatever. And I think the DNR doesn't, they don't want it saying like it's part of the trail. But if you go up and you look at the building, as soon as you go down, it says Gold Star Trail. It's a
Right.
rest area for the Gold Star Trail.
Right.
It
Plus,
really
the
is.
Friends of the Marsh and the City of Orcon and stuff should highlight that it's there. As a-
I know, but
something
they-
for people to use. That's probably I think, I was up there in the fall because my wife and daughter like to go up there. I think it's
Well, if
one
you
of
ever
the
want to
best
go up
places
there,
to
I'll
view
meet
the
you
marsh.
up. I'd be happy to meet you up
It was
there. We could
one
look-
of the first lookouts there.
Yeah, it's a great place.
I know you
watch
and me
stuff.
and Senator Fitzgerald were together looking, and he pointed out, he said, would that be okay? I said, that sounds like terrific, honoring
Well,
your
I
son.
think the time before that, Senator Fitzgerald and I were there with Secretary Stepp, who was the DNR secretary at the time. And that was when some of those discussions started as well.
Well,
So-
whatever. It is all part of the trail, which is kind of cool though, someday. So, yeah, so we're working on the trail and we do want to go all the way to Beaver Dam. The next segment, like I said, will go from Horicon out the west side, and then we want to try to get some of the stewardship money. We're working in the next 30 days or so, we should have to figure out which land we need to purchase. And Highway 33 is the preferred. We had 5 different ways,
Yep.
routes, and now the state wants it to go 33 to intersect the Wild Goose Trail, go on the Wild Goose Trail, and then go on the railroad corridor, because the state owns one there. It's
Okay.
100 feet wide, to go to Beaver Dam that way. So that's the initial plan.
Okay.
Governor is supportive, DOT is supportive. It's just a matter of working on the grants, and
Yeah.
that's what I want to be involved in. And
Right.
we have some money raised. We have $130,000 in an account now. And so we have to have a 20% match for the next part. We think the next part will be 1.2 million, so we've got most of our fundraising ready. If we get the grant, we're ready to go.
Okay,
So I just want you to know that we are working on that, continuing to.
that sounds good. Call and talk to RJ about it so he can help.
Okay, RJ about that too? About the
Yeah,
grant?
because
Okay.
all that
Okay.
stuff, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have one
All
quick
right,
thing.
I just want to make sure, because I'm probably already late for the intro, and these two ladies haven't really got to chime in yet, so
I'm okay, yeah.
Are you sure?
Mostly, a lot of what was said, I agree
Okay.
with, some not.
I just wanted to
but
make sure you got a chance, because I appreciate it. This is the biggest crowd I've ever had in Iron Ridge, so thank you, this is great.
For me, the election thing was a lot of what he had said. Well,
Okay.
and some of what you said, I think for the most part, the elections are great. I was glad to hear that you were saying something about having the town clerks and, whoever the clerks are in the county and everything, have a big say in this, because they're tremendous.
They have to run it, so they.
So I think their input is extremely important. And the other little thing on that is what's the name of that thing where you can just check a box and you get to not ever have to go
They
anywhere.
definitely can find.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have been a registered voter to begin with, which is good, but you need proof for indefinitely confined.
Yeah.
And I don't think that should be any harder than when a doctor has to sign for your eyeglasses.
Sure.
So,
Okay, very good. All right, with that, I think I'm gonna have to run. But I've got some other sessions today, we'll have some other sessions in the future. You can always email or write call the office. With things.
I have one little thing yet. We have an issue in the township with fencing.
With
And I
fencing.
know you guys don't like to, you like to keep
Is
hands
this the
off.
same problem that Lowell's always talking to me about?
Probably is.
Yeah, with both sides, both property owners have to deal with state law on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And is there ever going to be a change on that? Or do you think there could be a possibility of changing the fencing laws? It's in regards to responsibility of who maintains what.
Right. Lowell brought that up to me about 4 years ago, and I tried to talk to the aid community a little bit about it, because they're the ones that put that law in place 100 years ago or
Yep,
whatever,
yep,
and
yep.
have the most concern about it. And we didn't really get to
Yeah.
much cooperation. and trying to work
There's
on
a
compromise.
certain part of the farming community doesn't want to touch the
Yeah.
fencing. But some of them, you know, they've included deer fencing now as a shared fence also, and
Yeah.
that could become quite expensive for
Right.
somebody that does not want to participate in fencing.
Right. So I
And-
would say, there's certainly no time for me to try to negotiate a grand plan on something that's been in place for
Yeah,
many
no,
years
no.
during the budget, but maybe this fall we could talk more about it and see if we can get some partners that would be willing to.
Well, I tried through
Compromise.
Farm Bureau, and Farm Bureau doesn't seem to be interested in it again.
That's one of the places I started last time too,
Yeah,
so
okay, maybe I'll have to try again.
we'll see, yeah.
Sure.
I have one
Thank
question,
you.
one short thing. Okay, these vaccines, I'm worried about them. I've been researching a lot, and there is an article here from DCDirtyLaundry.com. Moderna chief medical officer admits mRNA alters your DNA. Okay.
So all I can say about that right now is on
Is-
Tuesday, I voted, the assembly passed a bill, I voted in support of it to make sure that vaccines are not mandated on people. People can
Okay.
make their own choices, so
Okay.
that's where I am and that's what I support. I noticed that you didn't want to sign in, so are you just here reporting for yourself
Yeah,
or
just a nobody.
something else?
I've
Well, I
learned-
just think it's weird that you won't publicly identify yourself, but you're recording this.
Oh, no,
thing.
I just
So-
support her.
He's a-
No, it might end up on YouTube. If,
Well, I'm
you
sure
know.
it'll end up somewhere. You're obviously recording it for a purpose. I just thought it was weird
But
that you
it's
wouldn't
easy, you
identify
just push this
yourself.
button and, no.
And
I've just
so-
gotten good at being a nobody, you know?
Okay.
That's, you know, pretty much the truth of it, you
Well,
know?
all right.
No. I'll sign in if you want me to.
No, I just thought it was odd that you didn't want to identify yourself, but you were recording things.
No, a good question. No, nothing.
So. All right. Have a nice day.
Yep.
Thanks for all of you.